ground kind of brought it up to my mind because oil is underground. It's a terrible transition. But you wrote a lot about the oil issues, and it's starting to, with gas prices rising and the oil barrel rising, and Trump even talking to Saudi Arabia saying, hey, why don't you pump more oil? What's going on there?
Well, I wrote a couple of prophecies, actually. One was energy, and it talked about being energy independent. And then another one said a sign will be given with a volcanic eruption. The Lord told me it would be Sumatra. I didn't put that in the prophecy, which I probably should have. I did not. But that volcano has just erupted about 2 or 3 months ago, and a sign was given. If you go back and look at the video on YouTube of that Sumatra eruption, there's trumpet flowers right there as it's going. So that was kind of a sign to me that this was definitely what I was hearing. So, and they just came out with an article, a bunch of articles now, saying that America is fixing to be the #1 oil producer in the world, I think in another year or so. But there's something to do with when the president declares that America's energy independent, it will be like a shot heard across the world. There's something to do when he declares that. All bets are off at that point. And that's when America, I believe, is going to prosper like never before. And we have one of my business partners is an oil guy. He's a geologist, oil guy down in Texas. And he even told me, he said, Mark, all that stuff that Obama did when he wouldn't sign the permits, everything went to South America, Central America, all those rigs are on their way back here right now as we speak. So everything's being loosened up right now. The Permian Basin, you've got the pipeline's been released. Anwar's been released. All these things are being released right now off the coast of California, the drilling rights. I mean, all this stuff, man, is just fixing to go through the roof, man.
It's going to be great, and it'll be hopefully be able to correct some of that debt that we have to get America back in good graces on all fronts.
Absolutely.
All right, so we got a next question. This one is from the Real Buddy B. It's talking about the Supreme Court. Obviously, there has been stuff on the Supreme Court that we talked about. You predicted that 3 judges would be involved in a scandal. However, from discussions from QAnon, the research and many mass resignations have happened lately, and the deep state are trying to take the easy way out. Do you believe that Kennedy is one of those 3 involved in the scandals because he retired?
Now, see, that's the thing I don't know. That's the part I do not know. Again, watch for the retirements, the resignations, whatever the case may be. That's like we talked about earlier. It could be that he's part of it. We're never going to hear about what happened. But there is corruption on that court. Make no mistake about it. So, I mean, again, I don't know if he is a part of that or not.
Okay, cool. Very good. And then this one's from True Lucero. She asked a lot of questions, but I like that. So she was basically asking, she says that she really likes what you do and she appreciates you, and she's wondering if you have ever met President Trump or if you have any plans on meeting Trump.
I've never met President Trump. I've never spoken to President Trump. If there are plans for me to meet President Trump, it is totally in God's hands. I would love to meet him one day. I think it would be. I would be honored to meet him. Absolutely, yes, absolutely.
Obviously, you have no way of knowing this, but do you think that he's heard about your book and your movie and things like that?
I was told he was given the book, so I never got that confirmed, but I was told he was given the book. I'm pretty sure he's going to know the movie's coming out because this thing's going to be so controversial because there's some stuff leading up to all of this. It's going to be controversial. It's going to be heard. So yeah,
that's always good.
The movie's not controversial, but it'll be controversial in the enemy's eyes. Let's put it that way, because it already is. We're already getting attacked for it.
Will they say bad publicity is still good publicity or something like that?
Controversy sells, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So this one's way off topic. I don't think we've ever talked about this before, but the Roman Empire asks, what do you think about giants?
They're big. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying it to be sarcastic. I don't know. Honestly, I really don't.
You haven't put much thought into that topic at all?
No, I have not. Is he talking about the Nephilim or?
Yeah, things like that.
Yeah, I leave that to guys like Tom Horn. That's their specialty. God's not shown me anything on that. And that's one of the other things too about me is I try not to get off topic of what God has me doing right now, because if I start going in an area that I don't belong, then it takes me away from what God wants me doing. So God has not spoken to me a lot about the giants or the Nephilim for that fact.
Hey, at least when you don't know much about a topic, you still speak truth about it. Giants are big. That's it.
That's right.
All right. So Bill Maple, well, how much time we got left? I don't want to go over too much. Oh, we're running out of time here. But let's see here. Yeah, well, there's only a couple more. So Bill Maple says, Mark, we're all very anxious about for this all to be done and over with, and want to finally see God's justice carried out against the enemies. Do you think God will give us a divine heads up before he breaks all this loose? My thoughts are basically it's just going to happen one day, and I expect to wake up with thousands of arrests overnight. So do you think we're going to get
that? I think he's probably spot on that. I don't think you're going to know it's coming. I could be wrong. I'm not prophesying this, so don't hold me to this. Again, I think you're just probably going to wake up and it's just going to be wham. I don't know. It's all in God's hands how he wants to handle it. I would just say just be prepared now, because it could get rocky and it may take a while for things to settle down. So just put your seatbelts on. Be patient. There is a huge plan in place, like Q. Q talks about. And people say, "Well, are you a Q follower?" Yeah, where we go one, we go all. So I think there's a huge plan in place. So we just got to sit back and do our job as the army of God, and God will do his.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, there was a couple. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. There has been a couple archaeological discoveries. One, there was a tablet in Greece found, which basically was Homer's Odyssey, a few verses from that was dug up. And there's also a tomb discovered in Alexandria basically an ancient sarcophagus. Do you think either of those are tied to that prophecy about the discovery?
I don't know. I didn't hear about the first one, but I did hear about the second one. I haven't read an article on it yet, but I just caught the headlines on it, and it kind of made me wonder. Okay, is this part of it? People ask me all the time, "What do you think it is? Is it the Ark of the Covenant or something like that?" And I was like, "Look, I don't know. It could be relics. It could be. I can tell you what I sense. I'm not prophesying this. I can tell you what I sense. I sense it could be both, but I think it's going to be along the lines of maybe manuscripts, scrolls, debunking some theology stuff, some wrong theology that we've had all these years or decades or centuries, whatever the case may be. I think you're going to find some things that have been hidden from us, stuff like that. Stuff that's going to be so cataclysmic because we thought it was one way, and when in fact it was another. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something that will confirm that. Something along those lines.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be cool. I just saw those two things. It's again, like when I'm preparing for you to come on the show, it's always like things in the news pop up that line up right up with you. It's like a perfect timing always. All right, and then we talked about the volcano situation a little bit already, so we're going to go into that. And then, do you know? I don't know how this whole prophecy thing works with God revealing things to you or not, but do you feel like God's going to be revealing anything more to you coming up here in the future?
I think so. When I wrote that All Roads Lead to Rome prophecy, the Lord told me that would be the last one for a little bit. I don't know if He'll give me, I'm just not one. It's strange, Sam, because I get emails from people all the time like, "Hey, you haven't prophesied something in a long time." It's like, look, folks, I don't put this stuff out on a conveyor belt. It's just not the way it works with me. I operate totally differently than most people. I don't know of anybody else that really operates like I do. God's working with me on something now. I'm not going to go into it because I don't release something unless, God's ready to. But I'm working on some stuff now. Now, when God decides to release that, I don't know. It took me a year to release all roads lead to Rome, because the Lord had been dealing with me on that archaeological find. I was even working with Tom Horn on that one a little bit, because I sent that to him like almost a year ago. That part of the prophecy about the archaeological find, because I thought I had something to do with him, and it still may. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I operate differently. God will start giving me something. I'll start making bullet points, taking notes, and it takes me 3-4 weeks sometimes to write a prophecy. It took me a year to put that one together. And then it's the time. Okay, do I release it now, or do I sit on it for a little bit? You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things where I just don't. I guess, and there's nothing wrong with this. I'm not condemning anybody for this, but most people I'll probably say 98% of the people out there, they'll grab a microphone and they'll start prophesying right there. That's not me. That's not how I operate. I
Mhm.
operate differently, you know? So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'm just curious on the process, I guess. So, can you walk us through? Can you just walk us through the process of when you feel like God is telling you to say something, and then all of a sudden
Yeah,
you release it? Like, what is the steps? Like, you just get like a
sure.
feeling, or what
Yeah,
happens?
it's Jeremiah said it's like a fire burning in his bones, right? Before he had to release it, right? It's kind of like that with me, but it's not. For me, it's not a fire burning in my bones. It's almost like this pressure that builds in a pressure cooker. And it's like when I was doing the America prophecy, which is probably one of the longest prophecies I've done, or the Trump prophecy. Because if you notice, my prophecies are more short, sweet, and to the point.
Hmm.
It just gets to the point. You know what I mean? There's no fluff. And so it's just, again, that's the way God works with me. But I'll be walking around, God will give me something, and I'll start meditating on it. I'll write it down as a bullet point or a note. And then, that day or 2 days later, he gives me something else. I write it down, and this pressure starts building. And like for America, it took me 4 weeks to write that prophecy. And finally, when I get to a point on my notes where I feel like I can't take it anymore, like that pressure,
Hmm.
and then now I know it's time to sit down and write it out. So I start writing it out. And as I'm writing it out, the Holy Spirit will say, no, don't put that there, put this here. And then when I turn around on my computer to write it on my computer on my Word document, he'll even edit it some more as I'm doing that. And so I'll write it out. And then I've gotten to the point now that when I read something, I realize the flow of it. I know it's done. It's like, okay, what do I do with this now? Do I sit on it? Do I release it? That type of thing.
Hmm.
So that's kind of the way it works with me.
Very interesting. Yeah, I've always been curious about that. So that's yeah. So we're all the way done now. We had some great guest questions and a great conversation. Is there anything that you would like to end the show with that you feel like that God's put on your heart?
Get out and vote in the midterms. This is going to be one of the most critical elections for the president because he has to have the support. Because when those arrests take place, he's got to have the support of Congress. I think this is going to be the largest turnover in American history because we've had a huge amount of resignations. Nobody's hearing about them again. You know what I mean? So I mean, you got people like Paul Ryan aren't running again. You got to ask yourself, why is this? Because they've got stuff on him, and so I mean. But get out and vote. Watch for the voter fraud. If you can ask for a paper ballot, do the paper ballot type thing. But I mean, the main thing is get in the fight, man. Get off your behind, get on the front line, get involved somewhere. We gave some ideas what you can do to get involved. Right now, it's important. It's cataclysmic, really, at this point, to get involved in doing something in these prayer groups. So I highly encourage people to do that. You know what I mean? Start your own prayer group. Start your own prayer call or home church, whatever the case may be. Start repenting. Do historical research. Look at that video. If you can put a link to that video if you don't mind, that way it will help people so that they can understand and go line by line. Because we have to be prepared when Roe versus Wade goes down. It's going to go to a state level, so we got to be prepared for that ahead of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely got to be involved, and I will make sure I put links to all of those things. At least I will try to remember. I'm forgetful sometimes, so I apologize for that. But I will try to remember to do that. But anyway, Mark, thank you so much for coming on the Sharpen Report. It is always fantastic to have you.
Brother, it's always a blessing and an honor to be here. Thank you for having me, and I thank you, brother, for what you do for the kingdom of God.
Well, it's as you will say, I'm sure it's a joy to be chosen to do such a wonderful job for the kingdom. So.